Hello, football fans. Welcome to another breaking news edition of Football Talk with John and Evan. I'm your host, John Justin Jankowski, with not Evan knows his football bonner, but Evan Winnie the Pooh bonner. Evan, it's Halloween. I had a little bit more fun Halloween in 2009 when we were at 2008, 9 years ago when we were at a parade, but this is fun too.
Well, John, this is our spooky, scary edition of Football Talk with John and Evan. It is October 31st. That means it's Halloween. This is a very big edition, John, of our show. Breaking news, a trade went down today that nobody was expecting. I certainly wasn't expecting it. The Philadelphia Eagles have traded a fourth-round draft pick in 2018 to the Miami Dolphins, seemingly favorite of Howie Roseman's. He's always making trades down there in Miami, but for Pro Bowl running back Jay Ajayi. And I'm actually very surprised, very intrigued by this move, and I don't really think it makes a ton of sense on the surface. Now, Jay Ajayi is a very similar running back to LeGarrette Blount in terms of style and what he brings to the table. He's a run-first running back who really does not catch a lot out of the backfield, really only run certain run plays, if you will. But he's very effective, at least he was last year in doing so. Rushed for over 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, somewhere around 5 yards per carry. So if he brings that production to Philadelphia, it is an extremely good trade for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, initially, when my dad told me about this trade, I was very surprised. I thought if they were going to do something, it'd be for an offensive lineman, maybe another receiver. I know we were linked to Calvin Johnson, Cordy Glenn up there in Buffalo. I'm not sure just how realistic I thought they were last night, but if I was going to wake up to a trade today, it would have been for something like that, certainly not for a running back. So on the surface, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you really sit down and think about this, Wendell Smallwood's been injured and inconsistent. LeGarrette Blount has played well at times, but is at the wrong side of 30, rather. And that's not very good for a running back long-term. Jay Ajayi, I believe, is only 24 years old, still on a rookie deal, should be relatively affordable moving forward. And this is somebody who can grow and develop alongside Carson Wentz, Nelson Aguilar, and the rest of the Philadelphia Eagles. So in the long term, this does make a lot of sense. I know me and John were talking about, Jay not having a great season this year. Having issues in the locker room and past, complaining when he doesn't get the football, that could potentially be a problem. But what you can say is that right now winning cures all ails. If the Eagles continue to win, if Jay Ajayi can bring something to the table, if they can kind of figure out how to balance Jay and LeGarrette Blount and Wendell Smallwood, maybe little Corey Clement, then things will work out. But I'll tell you right now, Jay Ajayi, the addition of Jay Ajayi, if it works out, absolutely means less carries for LeGarrette Blount, who is becoming a fan favorite in Philadelphia. But this is a future move. It could help in the short term. I'm not saying that it won't, but this is ultimately 2, 3, 4 years down the road, a running back who you don't have to replace right away if things work out, because he's as young as he is, and hopefully things work out, because if he's the running back that we saw last year in Miami, multiple 200-yard games, 8 touchdowns, very physical presence, and young to boot, then this is a great trade. But if the chemistry doesn't work out, if he isn't really producing, if him and LeGarrette Blount bash heads, if this messes with the chemistry in the locker room, then we could point to this in a couple weeks and say this imploded the Philadelphia Eagles season in the best start since 2004. So you never know what will happen, but I can tell you what could happen. It's either sink or swim right here for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not sure where it will go, but I can guarantee you this is a fork in the road in the season. They either kind of take a turn and really become a dominant team in the NFL, and I mean not just in terms of wins and losses, but really being a favorite to win the NFC, as opposed to, even though they're 7-1, they're still a little bit of a dark horse. Or this could go in the opposite direction and really tank the chemistry, really mess things up. And next thing you know, the Eagles are 9-7, 10-6 at the end of the year, not having a great back half and getting bounced in the playoffs early. So it's very interesting to see what happens, but I choose to believe things will work out, and Jay Ajayi will be here for a very long time.
I got this news. I saw it on Twitter right away when Schefter and Rappaport all tweeted it out. And then I got texts from you, and then my friend who has Carson Wentz on his fantasy football team. So he thinks this is going to help out Wentz. I'm not saying it will. And then I got another text from my friend who's a Bears fan who loves Alshon Jeffrey, and he just likes that Alshon has more weapons on offense. But anywho, you texted me, not sure I understand this move. And my thoughts when you sent me that text, like, why was this move made? And even though LeGarrette Blount, like you said, is becoming a fan favorite, he's had a couple big games, I don't think Doug Peterson sees him as the number one back. I mean, he hasn't been the go-to guy, like, consistently. Like, you keep seeing Smallwood get carries. You see Clement getting carries. You see Barner getting carries some week. Like, LeGarrette Blount is not like the go-to Eagles running back. He's not going to get you 20 carries a game. Like, he does lead the team in rushing yards. He's had a couple 100-yard games, but I don't think Doug Peterson and the staff were satisfied with LeGarrette Blount as the top back. Now, what this does is you add Jay Ajayi, who was a Pro Bowler last year, 1,200 yards. Here's your chance to have a number one back. Now, the critics will say the reason the Dolphins got rid of Ajayi was he was a locker room cancer. He always complains if he doesn't get the ball enough. If he doesn't get enough touches, he's going to whine. So,
but winning cures all ails, John. If they're winning games,
that's what I'm saying. He's going from the Dolphins to a winning team, to a team that should go to the playoffs, probably will go to the playoffs. And if he does complain, put him on the practice squad. Like, you got to 7-1 without him. None of those guys got hurt. They're still all there. So if the one critique everyone's saying about this trade is he complains a lot and whines a lot, then just get rid of him. I don't really see this as a risky move. The Eagles gave up a 4th-round pick. Well, they have multiple 4th-round picks. So I see this as a move that they're serious about a Super Bowl run. Like, yeah, like a couple weeks ago it was fun. It's like, oh, yeah, 4-1, this is cool. Now it's like, whoa, Aaron Rodgers is hurt. The Falcons don't look like world beaters. The NFC right now is very winnable for Philadelphia.
Huge too, John. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott was a huge part of Dallas's team, and being out 6 weeks when he was out. If he was out from the beginning, for that 6-week suspension, it would never have coincided with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now all of a sudden he doesn't play on Sunday night. I'm actually not sure off the top of my head when they play again. I just don't have the roster in front of me, but there's a good chance at least once that he won't be around. So this is the Eagles' time. I totally agree with you, John.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The Eagles do end the year against Dallas. So that's game number 2. The Eagles have Dallas on Sunday Night Football in a couple of weeks. But this move makes total sense to me. I mean, the one thing, Ajayi, he doesn't catch the ball well out of the backfield. That's something that Doug Peterson likes to do in the offense. But he's going to be a guy that hits the hole. He's going to be a guy that's going to be tough to bring down. He breaks tackles. I mean, he's a very traditional running back. I mean, this is a guy that had 2 200-yard games last year. I mean, this guy's a special talent. And obviously this is a message that, like Evan said earlier, that this could be the running back of the future. And it's just a very obvious message that LeGarrette Blount is not a top 1 running back for a team. And
well, I mean, I'm not so sure if this has as much to do with LeGarrette Blount right now, John, as it does. As this is a move for the future. That could also help out right now. I don't look at this, John, like you do, of Doug Peterson doesn't buy into LeGarrette Blount. I look at this as Howie Roseman's trying to find their feature running back of the future however they can, and this just kind of seemed to work out. I don't think this has a lot to do with how they feel about LeGarrette Blount. I think this is, let's fix this issue, this long-term issue. The elephant in the room is who's going to be the running back. That was the issue with the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward. And there's a good chance they just addressed it. And I think they saw an opportunity, they made a move, and they'll just kind of figure it out this season. But I'll tell you another thing, John, there's no way LeGarrette Blount comes back next year unless Jay Ajayi totally flops.
Yes. So Jay Ajayi is going to come here. He'll probably play against Denver. I don't see why he wouldn't.
He won't play. I think he'll play, but he'll get limited carries.
Yeah, he's not going to get like 20 carries. He'll get maybe like 5 to 10.
Well, I mean, unless they feel like the way they run the ball is similar to the way the Dolphins run the ball and their play calling and the way they block and all that. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. But if they do feel that way, then there's no reason why you don't kind of plug them in right away and to a degree. Another thing, John, I think this is about pass protection. I think they like Jay Ajayi in pass protection. And, I mean, honestly, I haven't seen enough of him.
He's already the team's best pass protector. And obviously, Carson Wentz has been taking lots of hits the last couple of weeks.
I mean, John, when we were initially talking, I was concerned about this. But as I thought about it, this is a future move that was just on the table right now. And and the thing is how can you turn away a Pro Bowler who's 24 years old coming off an 8-touchdown, 1,200-yard season? John's totally right. If it doesn't work, I don't think he's practice squad eligible. I think he's played too many games. But if things don't work out, you just kind of move on from him and you go back to the drawing board. If things do work out, you've got your running back for the next 6-7 years. So we'll see what happens. But, the Eagles are really trying to build a core that doesn't just win now, but will win in years to come. And I'm very excited about this move the more I talk about it. Pooh Bear's feeling it, John. Pooh Bear's feeling it.
And just remember, the Dolphins right now are in a trade now kind of situation because there's talks that they're trying to get rid of Landry for a second-round pick, and Jarvis Landry has been one of the best wide receivers in the NFL this year.
I love Jarvis Landry. John, all right, hypothetical real quick. If we could go back in time and you were Howie Roseman to like 6 hours ago, would you give up a 4th-rounder for Jay Ajayi or a 2nd-rounder this year for Jarvis Landry?
Oh, Ajayi.
Really?
I'm happy with wide receiver core right now.
I love Jarvis Landry. I mean, I just feel like, like you said, he's one of the best receivers in football. He's on my fantasy team. He perennially is. I love him. But, you are probably right from a football standpoint of what makes sense. But in terms of just building talent, I mean, you can't tell me that Torrey Smith hasn't underperformed. You could just kind of throw Torrey Smith in that mix just to kind of relieve some roster space. Give away that 2nd-round pick. You have Jarvis Landry, Nelson Aguilar still in the slot. Jarvis can play in the slot, but they play him on the outside a little bit in Miami too. And Alshon Jeffrey, you tell me that group can't make it work?
I mean, I'm just saying, the wide receiver core right now is the last thing I'm thinking about. I'm thinking O-line. I was thinking run game. Let's get the corners healthy. Okay, the linebackers, how's that all going to work out? Because the Eagles are working out some linebackers since the Jordan Hicks. So the wide receivers right now are one of my least issues I have. And kind of funny because that's one thing I complained about all offseason was the Eagles wide receiver situation was such a mess last year. And that's a concern I don't really have right now, which is nice.
All right, John. So we're 3.5 hours away from the trade deadline. Is this it, or are we going to have another emergency show?
I don't know. I mean, this is like the NBA trade deadline. This is fun. I mean, Jimmy G going to the 49ers for a 2nd-round pick, which is basically going to be a 1st-round pick because that's going to be like the 33rd or 34th pick in the draft. So Patriots getting basically a 1st-round pick for a backup quarterback. I know everyone's saying they could have got so much more for him, but just like you're still getting a 1st-round pick basically for Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, that's another win for New England.
The market dictates the value, John. When you have people saying you could have, well, it wasn't on the table. The 2nd-round pick's pretty high. I think it's more interesting, John, looking at what could potentially happen with Kirk Cousins in San Francisco.
Oh, I told you Cleveland. I told you Cleveland last episode.
For Kirk Cousins?
Yeah, I told Cleveland's going to throw all the money in the world at him.
Unless the Redskins kind of get that done beforehand. I thought the idea of Kyle Shanahan and Kirk Cousins reuniting in San Francisco would have been great for the league. But who knows? I mean, it's definitely interesting to think about, him in Cleveland. I just want Kirk Cousins out of Washington. Even though the Eagles beat him twice this year, I just look at Kirk Cousins as an Eagle killer. He generally has his best games against Philadelphia. It's wishful thinking. I just want him out of the division, to be entirely honest with you. And I think the Jimmy Garoppolo trade really hurts that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously but there's still a lot of teams that need quarterbacks next year. I mean, the Jets need a quarterback, so the Jets are another team that he could possibly go to.
I have a feeling, though, deep down in my heart that, he's the number 1 rated quarterback in the NFC. At least he was for a while. I'm not sure if he still is. But there's no way that Washington actually moves forward from.
And keep your ears out to Indianapolis, because the talks about Andrew Luck are getting kind of scary for Colts fans. Maybe Andrew Luck might not be playing down the road. Maybe his career might be shot. So they're very concerned about his injury down in Indianapolis. So that could be another team that could possibly pursue Cousins down the road. We'll see how Luck recovers the rest of the year. But, I mean, it's the NFL. Teams need quarterbacks. I mean, Kirk Cousins, he's a consistent top 15 quarterback. He'll throw you 4,000 yards. I mean, teams are going to want him. Teams are going to throw money at him. So I don't think – I mean, I think if Washington was serious about him, they would have gave him a big deal already. They would stop with the franchise tag. So you and me differ a little bit about it. You think he's probably going to stay in Washington. I don't think he's going to stay. So we'll see what happens. But you're very right that Jimmy G going to the San Francisco 49ers does take away one team that Kirk could go to next season.
Unless Jimmy fails, and that happens more than pretty much any time a guy from New England leaves Bill Belichick's little trust circle, things don't work out.
Well, that's the thing. Jimmy G now has 8 games to show what he has. Now, is that enough? I mean, he's going to a system he doesn't know yet. He's going to a system where he's not familiar with the running backs, the wide receivers, the tight ends, the O-line. Is that really a fair – is 8 a fair assessment?
I don't think it's a fair assessment in real life, but I think it's enough for a team like the 49ers to make a hasty move. I bet you it'll be enough for John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan in that front office to say, let's pay him or let's not pay him. I do think that they will make a decision in that after 8 weeks. Do I think that it's fair or right? No, but I'll tell you what, it's just as likely that he gets hot in that 8 weeks or plays well enough for them to panic and pay him than it is for them to say no thank you. So they could go both ways for Jimmy. He could either, not have enough time, struggle to learn the system, not play well and not give an opportunity and things just not work out, or he plays well enough and them giving him a contract he doesn't deserve. So I don't look at it as fair or not fair, just kind of the situation he's in. But I don't think it'll work out for Jimmy. I just don't buy. I mean, we're talking about a franchise that let go of Jim Harbaugh, who was one of the best coaches in the NFL when he left. And, and they've been replacing with nothing, like Chip Kelly, the old defensive coordinator of the Niners under Jim Harbaugh. Didn't work out for after a year or two. Totally forget his name. And so I look at it like, this 49ers organization has really struggled in the front office really since, Steve Mariucci left? So that's like 2002, 2003. So, that's the type of organization that's going to make a hasty call, make a bad decision, and I think that could either really help or really hurt Jimmy Garoppolo. But to answer your question, John, I'm going the long way around the barn and telling you that it isn't fair, it isn't right, but it makes a lot of sense for an organization like the San Francisco 49ers to put themselves in this situation.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, this is a fun NFL. You're not used to seeing 2 big names get traded in the NFL. This is NBA right now. This feels like the NBA. I think the trade deadline in the NFL this year was better than the NBA trade deadline. I think that might be the first time I've ever said that in a year.
And the thing is, John, is it's not over yet. We have about 3.5 hours left.
Eagles will play the Denver Broncos at home in Denver, man. They played the Chiefs last night. I know the Chiefs are one of the better teams in football. Andy Reid's doing a heck of a job with the Chiefs this year, but Trevor Siemian, yikes. He does not look good. I mean, Denver's got a good defense, but when Siemian just throws 3 horrible interceptions and just gives a short field to that Kansas City offense, it's too easy for Kansas City last night. And if the Eagles can just get pressure on Siemian, it's going to be a long day for the quarterback.
Oh, I know, brother Andrew will be upset about this. He's like the last defender of Trevor Siemian. But the truth be told, I'm not a big Trevor Siemian guy. I was for a little while, but just ultimately things just haven't seemed to work out. And my argument for Trevor Siemian, John, is this is basically the same roster that went to a Super Bowl with Brock Osweiler as a quarterback, and not the same Peyton Manning that we will remember ultimately. I mean, he was at best a game manager in those playoffs, but so you subtract two average quarterbacks from that team that won a Super Bowl, you replace them with Trevor Siemian, arguably the best roster in football. They missed the playoffs last year and they're struggling this year. At some point, it isn't everybody else. Trevor Siemian's got to figure it out, or it might be time to move on out there in Mile High.
Well, remember, they're still waiting for Paxton Lynch to get healthy, so I guess they're going to give Paxton Lynch a shot when he gets healthy, but I don't like feeling this confident because this is new for us Philadelphia fans because we've dealt with a lot of bad sports the last 5 years. But
I totally agree, John.
This Denver game, I have no concerns, and not having any concerns should be a concern. Fletcher Cox, he will not be suspended. So everyone, it was kind of funny. Evan and I didn't even see Fletcher Cox do a dirty hit when Jalen Mills had the pick six, and then all of a sudden Evan sends me a text, "Hey, check this out. Fletcher Cox might get suspended for his hit on Joe Staley." And I'm like, "What hit?" I don't remember.
I wasn't aware of it either, John. I really was not aware of the hit.
But Fletcher Cox, he's not going to get suspended, so the Eagles will have one of the best defensive tackles in football for the game. They're going to have the whole D-line going after Siemian. I think Simeon's going to make some poor decisions again. The running backs really don't scare me on Denver. Another thing about Denver, they do have Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas is a top receiver in the league, so if Siemian can get them the ball, that could be trouble. But
John, you know who might match up on Demaryius Thomas?
Who?
Ronald Darby. He might be back.
Ronald Darby could be back. Yeah.
What is your quick prediction for Ronald Darby the back half of the year?
What do you mean, how
does he play? We're talking about a defense that is lights out. Obviously, the corners are playing, I think, above themselves. They've risen their game.
I think he turns into the team's number one corner after the bye week.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think, Patrick Robinson, his concussion really hurts because he was playing great. I really like Rasul Douglas right now. And I think it's a shame that if Ronald Darby does come back and he is what we think he could be, that kind of means that Jalen Mills, one of my boys, is the odd man out. So, if Ronald Darby is what we think he could be, we're only going to get better. And the only thing that I think that we're in any type of trouble with right now I think they'll be totally fine with the Jason Peters injury. I said that I thought they'd be fine with the Darren Sproles injury, and they have proven that to be the case. I think Vaitai will play fine at left tackle, or if they find somebody else, they find somebody else, but I think they'll be fine on the offensive line. I was ready to move on from Jason Peters last year anyway. What I look at this as is, the linebackers. And I said this before, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but I think Nigel Bradham and Michael Kendricks will be fine in nickel and dime packages against the pass when there's only two linebackers. But Joe Walker coming in that base defense really does scare me, and that's why the Fletcher Cox not being suspended this week really is such a huge relief, because Joe Walker, even if he plays well, is still just a guy. If he wasn't wearing a football helmet and pads, John, he could just be one of the guys hanging out. I don't buy him being an elite middle linebacker in this league, or even a consistent starting linebacker in this league. So in base defenses, I think, that really potentially hurts the Philadelphia Eagles. But considering that teams usually play three wide receivers, NFL teams spend over 50% in their nickel packages, I think this defense could be stellar with Ronald Darby coming back. And unfortunately, Jalen Mills being the odd man out.
Right now, this is a breaking news video. Evan and I are doing a Philadelphia Eagles trade a fourth-round pick for Jay Ajayi from the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, a Pro Bowl running back last year. We got 3 people watching us live. Hey, we want you to be part of this episode. There's a group chat on YouTube. Send us your comments. How do you think Jay Ajayi is going to do with the Eagles this year? We want to hear from you. You heard Evan and I talk about 15, 20 minutes. He's going to adjust to the Eagles offense. We want to hear from you. So viewers, we see it right there in the number. We have 3 people watching. Let us know how you think Ajayi is going to play this year.
John, predictions. Stats for Jay Ajayi last 8 games, real quick.
Last 8 games. 500 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I would say about 70 yards per game, 3-4 touchdowns. I would say 4.2, 4.3 yards per carry, and I don't know, 5-10 catches.
But fantasy football alert, fantasy football alert. I mean, everyone's going to be like, John, this isn't an alert because we're already going to do it anyway. But if you're in one of those daily fantasy football leagues, play Zach Ertz. Kansas City struggles against the tight end, but everyone's going to be like, John, Zach Ertz scores a touchdown every week anyway, so we already knew we were going to play him. But look for Zach Ertz to not only have a touchdown game, but like one of those 6-catch, 80-yard games as well. So Zach Ertz, Chiefs struggle with the tight end. Look for Ertz a lot.
Oh, yeah, John. I mean, well, every week I feel that way. Denver does struggle against tight ends. It's a great matchup for the Eagles. There's no football argument why the Eagles don't dominate on Sunday. It's just that, I have a hard time believing this team goes 15-1. They got to lose sometime.
And my emotional roller coaster I'm still going fine. We're going to switch gears a little bit. I texted Evan in a panic last week when the Sixers fell to 2-4 after losing a heartbreaker buzzer beater to the Rockets. Well, the Sixers last night went to Houston, and the Sixers had the game in hand majority of the time. Ben Simmons, a 6'10" point guard. But, John, Ben Simmons can't shoot from the outside. Hey, Ben Simmons had 4 elbow jumpers last night. But, John, Dario Saric isn't getting any touches. Well, Dario knocked down some shots last night. But what about TJ McConnell? He played so well last year. He's not going to get the minutes because Ben Simmons is the point guard. Oh, TJ McConnell, 3 for 3 from 3. What happens if TJ develops a 3-point jump shot and Ben Simmons is on the floor? Oh, but what about Joel Embiid? Is this going to take time away from him? Well, Embiid's an elite passer. He'll throw a laser cross-court pass. I mean, this is against the Houston Rockets. I know they don't have Chris Paul right now, but they still have James Harden, who was the number 2 in MVP last year. This was a team that was a 3 seed in the Western Conference last year. I feel a lot better about a 3-4 Sixers than I was about the 1-4 Sixers. I was
panic mode. John was ready to trade everyone on last Wednesday.
I was in such a panic.
Playoffs. They're going to be awful. They're one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, and now 2 wins later, John's feeling a little bit better. But this is a Rockets team that was without Nene and Trevor Ariza when they lost to them. They were both there last night, and they won. And John, the only thing that still frustrates me right now, John, is what is Jared Bayless doing on this team? They
love him for some reason.
I don't
think
he's a consistent shooter. I don't think he's a particularly good ball handler. I haven't seen him do much defensively. I just think he's taking reps away from JJ Redick when he's healthy and TJ McConnell and Timothé Luwawu Cabarrone. I really like these players, these guys who play the 2 through 3, and I just think Jared Bayless is just a guy. He's a placeholder. They seem to really like him out there in Philadelphia. So I don't know what's going on, but John, I'm telling you right now, this team is talented. They're athletic. They're rangy defensively. They push transition. They're shooting the poo out of the 3-point shot. I love what the 76ers are doing right now. And I'm all in. Trust the process, John. It is the Sixers, man. I'll tell you right now, they will win Wednesday against the 1-6 Hawks at home. They'll get their first win at the Wells Fargo Center. And, next thing you know, they're 500, John. And that's about where Vegas put them. That's about where the 5 seed is moving forward, isn't it? About 40 to 43 wins. And after 8 games, they should be about 500. So, John was hitting the panic mode. They were going to win 3 games all year last week, and now look at him acting like he's Mr. Sixers. Trust the process. The fact is, John, they've lost to teams that they've supposed to lose to. I get the Raptors' loss was bad, as it is, and it was. It was a 30-point loss off a back-to-back without Joel Embiid. Don't want to make excuses. It was a bad loss, but they've only lost to teams they're supposed to lose to. They've beaten 2 teams they're supposed to beat, and they they really stole a win out there in Houston against a Rockets team that they had already lost to, who had more weapons this time around than they had the game before. So this Sixers team, we're watching them improve in front of our eyes. And my only complaint, John, is I hate that they wear the white jerseys away and the blue ones at home. I've been watching basketball for so long. I want to see the white at home and the colored away, and I want to see them bring back the black Allen Iverson jerseys as alternates. John hates
they can wear whatever they want. As long as they win, just wear whatever. Whatever Embiid and Simmons want, cool with me. As long as I get W's, Embiid and Simmons, you just pick, because Embiid and Simmons, this is fun. I am having fun watching Simmons. He's a 6'10" point guard running the floor. I love it. I love it.
Don't knock the jersey, John. Look good, feel good, play good. Jerry Rice. Jerseys matter.
Yeah, that's the reason why Jerry Rice was the best wide receiver of all time. It's just because that's the only reason.
Probably.
Phillies also added a new manager. Here you go, Evan. This guy's an analytics guy. So now we saw Chip Kelly, the big analytics guy. Then we saw Sam Hinkie with the Sixers. So now the Phillies with their manager is big analytics. So, I mean, everyone in Phillies, analytics, numbers, yay. I mean, but the new Phillies manager, one thing that's very stands out to him, I was reading about him. When he went to the Dodgers, he was a director of the player personnel. The first thing he did was got rid of all the unhealthy meals, all the snacks out of the Dodgers minor league and major league system. So this guy is very nutrition heavy, and he studies like the launch velocity and the launch angle of how the ball comes off the bat. He's not really looking at batting averages when it comes to improving a hitter's swing. He's seeing, okay, where is the ball launching from? How fast is that ball coming off the bat? Then he's also looking at the hand placement with his pitchers. Can he increase the speed on a slider or a fastball? So this guy, it's an unorthodox approach to baseball, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Phillies adjust to it, because it's not your typical manager. So I'm very interested how it plays out, because a lot of old school baseball fans are anti the Phillies manager already, but I'll give it a shot. I mean, the Phillies have been a last place team for the last couple of years. I mean, why not? Let's see if this works, because I think the Phillies have talent. It's just a lot of their talents regress. So if this guy comes in and figures out what they're doing incorrectly with their swing, maybe this team can turn it around a little bit, maybe be the third best team in the division instead of being the last place like we've seen the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah, John, you know what? You've nailed it all out on the head. I don't pretend to be a great Phillies expert, so I'm going to let you take that, John, but there's hope in Philadelphia for all four teams. There's something to be said about that, and I'm excited to see what analytics will bring to the diamond, if it were. And
if the playoffs start today, the Flyers would be in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's John and Evan talk hockey. I mean, we can really break down that blue line and the shifts and everything and the four lines.
We are multi-dimensional on this show, John. Don't sleep on us. We're not.
Claude Giroux went from center to wing, and it's just, look, they're now a playoff team. So, look at you and me breaking down hockey.
Man, John, we are – I mean, somebody call ESPN. We need to be –
Well, no, I don't want to go – they're doing a bunch of more layoffs. I mean, if we go to ESPN, we might be part of the future layoffs.
Why don't you and I just start our own, like, Super Sports Sash channel where it's just you and me 24 hours a day just talking sports.
We just got to figure out a way how to get paid first, so.
We'll get paid, John. The money will do what you love, and the money will come, John. That's why I'm in my.
That is very true. But for those of you joining late, we actually had 6 people watching us live at once. So big thank you to everyone that was watching us live. One person, I'm trying to understand the comment they sent in. I think it's a great pickup for the Eagles, considering the Eagles tried running zone run skiing with Blunt's
zone run schemes. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, he just misspelled. With Blunt's AJ's ozone runner. So that was a comment from a viewer. So if you could decipher that, maybe you could just reply to that, like respond to that. So do you think, is Ajayi going to be the guy that gets the ball in the red zone? I think that's big. Or is he going to be more of the middle of the field kind of guy?
Well, John, one thing that I have taken away from what was going on is, LeGarrette Blount was brought in to be a touchdown machine in the red zone. I mean, he had 18 touchdowns the year before. He's had 2 in the first 8 games this season. Now, it's not a lot on him. I think that is mainly to do with Carson Wentz's, decision-making and laser accuracy in those tight windows in the red zone. We talked about that last week. They've been so efficient in the past in the red zone that they haven't really needed him as much. But, I also think that, there's no reason why, he's only got 2 rushing touchdowns all year. And considering just how good, he's supposed to be. So I look at it, as a potential good fit, in that red zone, John. But I also look at our viewer. I didn't see the comment herself talking about zone versus power schemes, and zone's a little bit more of a finesse run blocking scheme. It's a little bit more about firing off the ball, getting to a spot, as opposed to it's more about being responsible for an area as it is hat on a hat, getting physical and really, blocking man for man, getting up to the next level, getting aggressive in those blocking schemes. That's more, the physical running scheme, or angle running or blocking scheme as is the zone. And I do agree that Jay Ajayi is much more athletic, much quicker than LeGarrette Blount is, even though LeGarrette Blount has showed us, a lot of quickness over the course of the year, a lot more than we thought he had. But, if they continue with that zone blocking scheme, which they do, they do down block a lot, get that running back off outside the tackles, get, the offensive line moving in one direction or the other. They do that a lot with LeGarrette Blount and Wendell Smallwood, a little bit Corey Clement here or there. So in a lot of ways, it does make sense for Jay Ajayi. That is a pretty good comment that was made. I do agree with that to a degree.
All right. This was not supposed to be like a normal length episode. This was just a breaking news podcast. I mean, Fletcher Cox won't be suspended. Eagles trade 4th-round pick for Jay Ajayi. Don't worry, Eagles fans who like their draft picks. Eagles have multiple 4th-round picks. So they're losing whatever the second best 4th-round pick will be. That's the one they're going to lose. So that could be the Vikings or the Patriots pick. So Sixers have won their last couple games after losing that heartbreaker buzzer beater. They have the same record as the Eastern Conference champion Cleveland Cavaliers. No, that doesn't mean I think the Sixers are going to have a better record than the Cavs. But, hey, for right now, Sixers and the Cavs have the same record. And Philly's get a new manager, and the Flyers, if the playoffs start today, would be in the playoffs. So, Philly sports, right now, it's fun.
Oh, it's a lot of fun out here in Philly, John. Go Philadelphia sports, but go Eagles primarily. And then
we love them all. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll take a championship from any of them. We love each one.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, John. I want to go to some parades, just like we did this time 9 years ago.
I can't wait till the Flyers make the playoffs and you and me are breaking down line changes. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's on you, John.
All right, I'll see you later, Evan.
Happy Halloween, John.
Happy Halloween.
Ooh.